Commander Zethvar of the Galactic Coalition watched the tactical display with growing dread. Red dots representing enemy ships filled the hologram like a swarm of angry insects. The Korthak Empire had brought everything they had to this remote star system, and it showed. "Status report," Zethvar commanded, his four arms working furiously at the command console. Around him, the bridge crew of various alien species worked with desperate efficiency. "We have lost 12 ships in the last 10 minutes, reported Lieutenant Yara, a blue-skinned Alterian whose tentacles danced across her station. "The Korthak dreadnoughts are tearing through our defensive lines like they are made of paper." Zethvar's mandibles clicked in frustration. The Coalition had been fighting the Korthak Empire for 3 years now. Ever since the brutal insectoid race had emerged from the Outer Rim with technology that seemed decades ahead of anything the galaxy had seen, their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, and their tactics ruthlessly efficient. "Sir, the flagship Eternal Dawn is requesting immediate assistance," called out Ensign Crix from the communications station. "They have lost main power and are drifting toward the enemy line." Through the viewport, Zethvar could see the massive Coalition dreadnought listing badly, its hull scarred by energy blasts. The Eternal Dawn carried 8,000 crew members from a dozen different worlds. If it fell, this battle would be over. "Signal the remaining squadrons," Zethvar ordered. "All ships are to converge on the flagship's position. We cannot let them capture or destroy her." The bridge shuddered as another Korthak energy beam grazed their shields. Warning lights bathed everything in red as the ship's AI announced damage reports in its calm, mechanical voice. "Shield strength, at 60% and falling," reported the chief engineer, a stocky Turvan whose rocky skin was already showing stress cracks. "We cannot take many more hits like that." Zethvar studied the tactical display again. 47 Coalition ships remained from the original fleet of 90. The Korthak had brought nearly 200 vessels, including those massive pyramid-shaped dreadnoughts that could split a cruiser in half with a single shot. The math was simple and terrifying. "Sir, we are receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Corvin aboard the Eternal Dawn," Lieutenant Yara announced. "Put him through." The holographic image of Admiral Corvin appeared in the center of the bridge. The elderly Zentori looked exhausted, his normally pristine uniform torn and stained. Behind him, sparks flew from damaged consoles as his crew worked frantically. "Commander Zethvar," the Admiral said, his voice heavy with resignation, "I am ordering a full retreat. Signal all remaining ships to fall back to the hyperspace jump points. We cannot win this engagement. Admiral, with respect, if we retreat now, the Korthak will have a clear path to the Vega colonies. 3 billion civilians. We'll die anyway if we lose our entire fleet here," Admiral Corvin interrupted. "The Korthak are too strong. We need to regroup, find another way." "This is a direct order, Commander." Zethvar's heart sank. The Admiral was right, of course. They were outgunned and outnumbered. Staying would only result in the complete destruction of what remained of the Coalition's Third Fleet. But retreat meant abandoning the outer colonies to the Korthak's brutal occupation. "Understood, Admiral," Zethvar replied, initiating retreat protocols. As the retreat order went out across the fleet, something strange happened on the long-range sensors. Lieutenant Yara's tentacles froze over her console, her large eyes widening in confusion. "Commander, I am detecting a new contact approaching from the edge of the system," she reported, her voice uncertain. "It is moving very fast." Zethvar moved to her station, studying the readings. Whatever was approaching was indeed moving at incredible speed, far faster than any known ship design. But there was something else unusual about the contact. "Can you get a visual?" he asked. "Working on it," Yara replied, her fingers dancing over the controls. "The object is still quite far out, but..." "Wait. Sir, this cannot be right." "What is it?" "The sensor readings indicate it is a single ship, but it is enormous. Much larger than any vessel in our databases. And Commander, it is not broadcasting any identification codes. It does not match any known ship design from any Coalition member world." On the main screen, a long-range image appeared. The ship was indeed massive, easily 3 times the size of the largest Coalition dreadnought. Its design was unlike anything Zethvar had ever seen. Where most galactic ships were either sleek curves like Coalition vessels or sharp angles like Korthak craft, this ship seemed to blend both philosophies. It had smooth, flowing lines, but also hard edges and practical-looking protrusions that suggested advanced weapons systems. Could it be a new Korthak design? Asked Ensign Crix. Negative. Lieutenant Yara responded after checking her readings. The energy signature is completely different. This is something new. Negative. The mysterious ship continued its approach, now moving at a speed that defied everything the Coalition knew about physics and engineering. At that velocity, any known ship would tear itself apart from the gravitational stresses alone. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission," announced the communications officer. "It is coming from the unknown vessel. Put it through," Zethvar ordered, curiosity overriding his caution. A new voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfectly clear galactic standard, with an accent that Zethvar could not identify. It was a male voice, calm and confident despite the chaos of the battle raging around them. "This is Captain Marcus Chen of the Earth vessel Defiant. Coalition forces, please maintain your current positions. We are moving to engage the hostile fleet." Silence fell over the bridge. Every member of the crew turned to stare at Zethvar, their expressions ranging from confusion to disbelief. Earth was not a member of the Galactic Coalition. In fact, most species in the galaxy had never heard of it. "Unknown vessel," Zethvar responded carefully. "Identify yourself and state your intentions. This is an active combat zone." "Copy that, Coalition Command," came the reply. "As I said, I am Captain Chen of the Earth ship Defiant. We are here to assist in your defense against the Korthak invasion force. Human vessels are en route to support." Human vessels? Zethvar had never heard the term before. Was this some new species that had developed spaceflight? But if so, how had they managed to build ships this advanced without anyone noticing? "Captain Chen," Zethvar said slowly, "I must inform you that the enemy force consists of nearly 200 ships, including several dreadnought-class vessels. A single ship, no matter how large, cannot." His words were cut off as the tactical display exploded with new contacts. Ships began appearing throughout the system as if materializing from empty space. First dozens, then hundreds of new vessels appeared, all moving in perfect formation toward the Korthak fleet. "What in the void?" whispered Chief Engineer Grax, his rocky features slack with amazement. The new ships were similar in design to the massive Defiant but came in various sizes. There were sleek destroyers barely larger than Coalition frigates, medium cruisers that looked built for speed and firepower, and massive battleships that rivaled Korthak dreadnoughts in size. But it was their movement that truly defied explanation. "How did they get past our sensors?" Lieutenant Yara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Long-range scans showed nothing. These ships just appeared." "Sir," called out the tactical officer, "the unknown fleet numbers at least 300 vessels. They are moving into attack formation. 300 ships. The humans, if that was what they were called, had brought a larger fleet than either the Coalition or the Korthak. But where had they come from? How had they remained hidden until now?" On the communications channel, Captain Chen's voice remained calm and professional. "Coalition forces, this is Defiant. Please pull back to a safe distance. We will handle the Korthak fleet, and do not be alarmed by our weapons systems. They may seem unusual." "Unknown human fleet," Admiral Corvin's voice broke in from the eternal dawn. "I appreciate your offer of assistance, but you do not understand what you are facing. The Korthak Empire has conquered dozens of worlds. Their technology is far advanced beyond anything we possess." There was a brief pause before Captain Chen responded, and when he did, there was something almost amused in his tone. "Admiral, we appreciate your concern, but we have been watching the Korthak for some time now. We know exactly what we are dealing with." "Watching them?" Zethvar felt a chill run down his spine. How long had these humans been observing galactic civilization without revealing themselves? And if they had been watching, Why had they chosen now to intervene? The lead human ship, the massive Defiant, began to accelerate toward the Korthak fleet. The other human vessels followed in perfect formation, their movements coordinated with a precision that spoke of advanced computer systems or incredible training. "Sir," Lieutenant Yara reported, her voice filled with wonder. "The human ships are not using any propulsion system I can identify. They are accelerating without any detectable energy emissions." "How is that possible?" Before Zethvar could respond, the Korthak fleet began to react to the new threat. The insectoid ships turned their attention from the retreating coalition forces to face the approaching human fleet. Energy beams and missile volleys erupted from the Korthak vessels, lighting up space with deadly fire. What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for decades to come. The human ships did not dodge or weave to avoid the incoming fire. Instead, shimmering barriers of energy appeared around each vessel. The Korthak weapons, which had been tearing through coalition shields like they were made of tissue paper, struck the human defensive screens and simply vanished. Not deflected, not absorbed, but erased as if they had never existed. "Impossible," breathed Chief Engineer Grax. "No shield technology can completely nullify energy weapons like that." The human fleet continued its advance, unharmed by the devastating Korthak barrage. When they reached optimal firing range, they opened up with their own weapons, and the true shock began. Instead of the familiar energy beams or plasma bolts that most galactic civilizations used, the human ships fired something completely different. Streams of what looked like liquid starlight erupted from their weapons, moving at incredible speed toward the Korthak fleet. When these weapons struck the enemy ships, the results were immediate and devastating. Korthak vessels, including their heavily armored dreadnoughts, simply came apart. Not exploded, not destroyed in the traditional sense, but disintegrated at the molecular level. Entire ships turned to expanding clouds of constituent atoms in seconds. "By the ancestors," whispered Admiral Corvin over the communication link. "What kind of weapons are those?" My. The battle, if it could even be called that, was over in less than 10 minutes. The mighty Korthak fleet, which had seemed invincible just moments before, was completely annihilated. Not a single human ship showed any sign of damage. As the last Korthak vessel dissolved into cosmic dust, the human fleet began to assume a protective formation around the damaged coalition ships. The massive Defiant approached the crippled Eternal Dawn, and Captain Chen's voice once again filled the communication channels. "Admiral Corvin, this is Captain Chen. Do you require assistance with repairs? Our engineering teams are standing by to help." Admiral Corvin's image appeared again on the bridge display, his expression one of complete bewilderment. "Captain Chen, we. How did you do that?" "The Korthak Empire has the most advanced military technology in the known galaxy." "Had," Captain Chen corrected gently. "Admiral, perhaps we should arrange a meeting. There is a great deal we need to discuss." Zethvar stared at the tactical display, watching the human ships maintain their perfect formations. In the span of less than an hour, everything he thought he knew about galactic civilization had been turned upside down. An unknown species with impossible technology had just saved the coalition from certain defeat, but as he watched the mysterious human vessels, a new question began to form in his mind. If humanity possessed such overwhelming military superiority, why had they remained hidden until now? And perhaps more importantly, what did they want? The stars themselves seemed to be reeling from what had just transpired. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in an instant, and nobody knew what would happen next. 2 hours after the battle ended, Commander Zethvar found himself aboard the human ship Defiant, walking through corridors that defied everything he understood about starship design. The walls seemed to glow with their own internal light, and the air felt somehow cleaner and more energizing than on any coalition vessel he had ever been aboard. Beside him walked Admiral Corvin and 3 other senior coalition officers, their expressions ranging from amazement to barely concealed fear. The human escort, a tall woman with short brown hair who had introduced herself as Lieutenant Commander Sarah Walsh, moved with the easy confidence of someone completely at home in this technological marvel. Your ship is quite impressive, Admiral Corvin commented diplomatically as they passed what appeared to be a transparent aluminum wall, showing the vastness of space beyond. How long did it take to construct? Lieutenant Commander Walsh smiled. The Defiant was completed about 18 months ago. She is actually one of our older designs now. We have been advancing quite rapidly in recent years. 18 months. Zethvar exchanged glances with the Admiral. The most advanced Coalition dreadnought took nearly a decade to build, and that was with the combined resources of dozens of worlds. They entered a large conference room where several humans were already waiting. At the head of the table sat a man who appeared to be in his late 40s, with graying hair and intelligent blue eyes. He wore a uniform similar to Lieutenant Commander Walsh's, but with additional insignia that suggested high rank. Admiral Corvin, Commander Zethvar, the man said, rising to greet them. I am Captain Marcus Chen. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. As they took their seats around the table, Zethvar could not help but study the humans more closely. They appeared remarkably similar to several galactic species he had encountered, but there was something different about them. They moved with a fluid grace that spoke of excellent physical conditioning, and their eyes held an alertness that suggested highly advanced mental capabilities. Captain Chen, Admiral Corvin began. Before we discuss anything else, I must ask the obvious question. Where did humanity come from? Our galactic surveys have never encountered your species before. Captain Chen exchanged glances with the other humans at the table before responding. Admiral, that is a more complicated question than you might think. Humanity originates from a planet called Earth, located in what you probably consider the galactic frontier. We have been spacefaring for several centuries, but until recently, we chose to remain hidden from the broader galactic community. Chosen to remain hidden? Commander Zethvar leaned forward. Why? And how is it possible? Our long-range sensors should have detected your civilization. A woman sitting to Captain Chen's left, who had been introduced as Dr. Elena Vasquez, spoke up. Commander, your sensors detect the energy signatures and technologies that galactic civilization currently uses. Our development path was different. We learned early on how to mask our presence and operate below the detection threshold of conventional scanning technology. Different how? Asked Admiral Corvin. Dr. Vasquez hesitated, then pulled out a small device that projected a three-dimensional image above the table. It showed a timeline with various technological developments marked along it. About 400 years ago, she explained, humanity made several breakthrough discoveries almost simultaneously. We developed faster than light travel, but not using the hyperspace principles that galactic civilization employs. We discovered new forms of energy manipulation, advanced materials science, and perhaps most importantly, we made significant advances in understanding the fundamental nature of reality itself. The timeline showed humanity's technological development as an exponential curve that shot upward dramatically in recent centuries, while parallel timelines showed other galactic civilizations advancing in steady, predictable progressions. You are saying that humanity developed technology superior to the rest of the galaxy in isolation? Admiral Corvin asked, skepticism clear in his voice. Captain Chen nodded. Not just superior, Admiral. Fundamentally different. While galactic civilization developed along predictable lines, following well-established scientific principles, humanity was forced to think outside conventional frameworks. Our isolation became our advantage. Forced to think differently how? Zethvar pressed. Dr. Vasquez manipulated the holographic display, showing an image of a blue and green planet. Earth is located in a region of space that experiences unusual gravitational anomalies and quantum fluctuations. These conditions made conventional technologies unreliable or impossible. We had to develop alternatives. The image changed to show complex mathematical equations and energy patterns that hurt Zethvar's head to look at directly. For example, Dr. Vasquez continued, your ships use hyperspace drives that require stable gravitational conditions to function properly. In our region of space, such drives would fail catastrophically. We had to develop quantum manipulation technology instead. Lieutenant Commander Walsh added, Our defensive systems are based on quantum phase manipulation rather than traditional energy shields. Our weapons use controlled quantum cascade reactions instead of plasma or energy beams. Everything about our technology had to be developed from different basic principles. Admiral Corvin sat back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. This explains your technological superiority, but not why you chose to reveal yourselves now. You could have remained hidden indefinitely. The atmosphere in the room grew more serious. Captain Chen's expression darkened as he responded, "Admiral, we have been monitoring galactic civilization for the past century. We have watched the rise and fall of empires, observed countless wars and conflicts. For the most part, we followed a policy of non-interference." "What changed?" Zethvar asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "The Korthak Empire," replied Captain Chen grimly. 3 years ago, when they first emerged from the Outer Rim, we conducted extensive reconnaissance of their civilization. What we discovered was deeply troubling. Dr. Vasquez manipulated the holographic display again, showing images of devastated worlds and subjugated populations. The Korthak are not just another expansionist empire, Commander. They are a parasitic civilization. They consume the resources and populations of conquered worlds completely before moving on to the next target. The images were disturbing. Zethvar had known that the Korthak were brutal conquerors. But this suggested something far worse than simple military occupation. "We estimate that if left unchecked, the Korthak Empire would consume the entire galaxy within 50 years, Captain Chen continued. "Every sentient species, every world, every trace of galactic civilization would be eliminated." "So you decided to intervene," Admiral Corvin said. "We debated the decision for months," Captain Chen admitted. "Our policy has always been to avoid interfering in galactic affairs. But we could not stand by and watch an entire galaxy be destroyed." Lieutenant Commander Walsh leaned forward. "There was another factor as well, Admiral. Our analysis indicated that the coalition military forces, despite their courage and determination, could not defeat the Korthak Empire with current technology. The gap was simply too large." Zethvar felt a mix of shame and relief at this admission. The coalition's best efforts had indeed proven inadequate against Korthak technology. But hearing it stated so bluntly was still difficult. "So what happens now?" Admiral Corvin asked. "Are you planning to take over the galaxy yourselves?" The question hung in the air for a moment. Zethvar realized that this was the crucial issue. Humanity had just demonstrated overwhelming military superiority. They could easily conquer the entire galaxy if they chose to do so. Captain Chen shook his head firmly. "Absolutely not, Admiral. Humanity has no interest in ruling over other species or establishing an empire. Our intervention is specifically limited to dealing with the Korthak threat. But surely you realize that your technology could revolutionize galactic civilization," Dr. Vasquez added. "We would like to propose a different kind of relationship." She activated the holographic display again, this time showing a complex organizational chart. "We propose the establishment of a joint research and development initiative. Humanity would share certain technologies with the coalition, while coalition scientists would contribute their own expertise and knowledge. A partnership," Admiral Corvin mused. "What would humanity gain from such an arrangement?" "Diversity of thought," replied Dr. Vasquez immediately. "Humanity developed in isolation, which gave us certain advantages but also created blind spots. Coalition science represents the accumulated knowledge of dozens of different species with different ways of thinking. That perspective could help us identify new research directions we might never have considered." Quote, Captain Chen nodded. "Additionally, Admiral, dealing with the Korthak Empire will require more than just military action. We will need to rebuild conquered worlds, resettle displaced populations, and establish new defensive networks throughout the galaxy. Humanity simply does not have the population or administrative capabilities to handle such a massive undertaking alone." The scope of what Captain Chen was describing was staggering. Zethvar tried to imagine the logistics involved in liberating and rebuilding dozens of worlds, while establishing defenses against future threats. "What about the Korthak themselves?" he asked. "Your weapons seem to completely destroy their ships." Are you planning to exterminate their entire species? The humans exchanged glances, and Zethvar sensed some discomfort with the question. Finally, Dr. Vasquez responded, "Commander, our weapons are designed to target specific technological signatures. We can disable or destroy Korthak military technology without necessarily harming the individuals operating it. However, the Korthak present a unique challenge." She brought up new images showing detailed biological and psychological profiles of the Korthak species. "The Korthak are not just technologically aggressive," she explained. "Their entire civilization is based on consumption and expansion. They literally cannot survive without constantly acquiring new resources and territories. Peaceful coexistence with them may simply be impossible." "Are you saying they must be destroyed?" Admiral Corvin asked quietly. Captain Chen looked uncomfortable. "We hope not, Admiral. But we may need to consider containment options. Perhaps establishing a quarantine zone around Korthak space, preventing them from expanding further while working on long-term solutions." The room fell silent as everyone contemplated the implications. The idea of containing an entire civilization within a specific region of space was unprecedented in galactic history. "There is one other thing," Lieutenant Commander Walsh said, breaking the silence. "Our analysis suggests that the Korthak Empire may not be acting entirely independently." "What do you mean?" Zethvar asked. "We have detected evidence that the Korthak may have been influenced or even directed by an external intelligence. Something that provided them with their advanced technology and pointed them toward galactic civilization. This was a completely new and disturbing possibility. If the Korthak were being controlled or manipulated by some other force, then defeating them might not solve the underlying threat." "Do you have any idea what this external intelligence might be?" Admiral Corvin asked. Captain Chen shook his head. "Not yet. But we intend to find out. Our investigation into this matter will be one of our top priorities going forward." As the meeting continued, Zethvar found himself both hopeful and apprehensive about the future. Humanity offered the possibility of finally defeating the Korthak Empire and rebuilding galactic civilization. But their overwhelming technological superiority and mysterious origins raised new questions about what the galaxy might look like under their influence. One thing was certain: the balance of power had shifted permanently, and nothing would ever be the same again. 6 weeks after the first contact with humanity, Commander Zethvar stood on the observation deck of the Coalition space station Unity's Promise, watching an incredible sight unfold before him. Dozens of human ships worked alongside Coalition vessels in perfect coordination. Their combined efforts focused on the liberation of Korthak-occupied worlds. The joint operation was proceeding far more smoothly than anyone had dared to hope. Human quantum weapons had proven devastatingly effective against Korthak technology, while Coalition forces provided the personnel and logistics needed for planetary occupation and civilian rescue operations. "Commander," came a voice behind him. Zethvar turned to see Dr. Elena Vasquez approaching, carrying a datapad filled with the latest intelligence reports. "Dr. Vasquez," he greeted her. Over the past weeks, the human scientist had become a regular presence aboard Coalition command stations, coordinating research efforts between human and Coalition scientists. "What news from the front lines?" "Excellent progress," she replied, moving to stand beside him at the viewport. "We have successfully liberated the Altair system, and advance forces are already moving toward the Korthak stronghold in the Beta Centauri region." Through the transparent metal, they could see human ships that still seemed impossibly advanced, despite weeks of exposure to their technology. The vessels moved with fluid grace, their hulls gleaming with the strange quantum manipulations that made their incredible capabilities possible. "The Korthak resistance has been lighter than expected, Dr. Vasquez continued. "Our analysis suggests that they are pulling their forces back toward their core territories rather than fighting for every occupied world." "That seems unlike them," Zethvar observed. "Intelligence reports have always indicated that the Korthak fight fiercely for every inch of territory they claim. We believe they may be concentrating their forces for a major counterattack." Dr. Vasquez agreed. "Captain Chen suspects they are planning something significant in their home system." The mention of Captain Chen reminded Zethvar of the changes that had occurred in Coalition command structure over the past weeks. While Admiral Corvin remained officially in charge of Coalition forces, practical coordination of the joint war effort had largely fallen to Captain Chen and his staff. The humans seemed to have an intuitive understanding of large-scale military operations that impressed even veteran Coalition commanders. "Dr. Vasquez," Zethvar said, "may I ask you something that has been troubling me?" "Of course, Commander. Your people possess technology that could easily conquer the entire galaxy. You could have taken control of Coalition space as easily as you defeated the Korthak fleet. Why have you chosen to work as partners instead of rulers?" Dr. Vasquez smiled, an expression that Zethvar had learned indicated human amusement or pleasure. "Commander, that question reveals something important about the difference between humanity and species like the Korthak." She gestured toward the human ships visible through the viewport. "Raw power is not the same as wisdom. Yes, we could conquer the galaxy through force. But what would that accomplish? We would become responsible for governing dozens of different species with their own cultures, needs, and aspirations. We would be forced to suppress diversity in favor of uniformity. In the end, we would destroy the very thing we were trying to protect. But surely there must be some benefit to humanity in this alliance," Zethvar pressed. "Your people are not acting purely from altruism." "You are right, of course, Dr. Vasquez acknowledged. "Humanity does benefit from this partnership. We gain access to the accumulated knowledge and wisdom of dozens of different civilizations. We learn new ways of thinking and solving problems. And perhaps most importantly, we gain allies who share our values." She paused, her expression becoming more serious. "Commander, humanity learned long ago that isolation breeds stagnation. Our rapid technological development occurred partly because we were forced to think outside conventional frameworks, but also because we had internal diversity of thought and culture. The galactic community offers that same diversity on a much larger scale." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent chime from Zethvar's communication device. The voice of Admiral Corvin filled the observation deck. "All senior staff to the command center immediately. We have received new intelligence that requires immediate attention." Zethvar and Dr. Vasquez hurried to the station's command center, where they found Admiral Corvin, Captain Chen, and several other senior officers gathered around a holographic display showing the galactic map. Red indicators marked known Korthak positions, while blue dots represented the Allied fleet. "What is the situation, Admiral?" Dr. Vasquez asked as they approached. Captain Chen answered instead, "Doctor, we have discovered something significant in the Korthak home system. Our deep reconnaissance probes have detected artificial structures that do not match any known Korthak architecture." The holographic display zoomed in to show detailed scans of the Korthak home system. At the center, orbiting the primary star, was a massive structure that dwarfed even the largest space stations in Coalition space. "The structure appears to be a space station of some kind," Captain Chen continued. "But it is enormous. Our estimates suggest it has a mass equivalent to a small moon," Admiral Corvin added. "More importantly, the energy signatures coming from this station do not match Korthak technology. They are something completely different." Zethvar studied the images, feeling a growing sense of unease. "Could this be related to the external intelligence you suspected was influencing the Korthak?" "We believe so," Captain Chen confirmed. "And there is more. Our analysis of the station's energy output suggests that it is not just a base of operations. It appears to be some kind of construction facility." Dr. Vasquez moved closer to the display, her scientific curiosity clearly engaged. "Construction of what? That is what we need to find out," Captain Chen replied. "But the implications are troubling. If some external force has been providing the Korthak with their technology, and if they are now building something on this massive scale," he did not need to finish the thought. Everyone in the room understood the potential threat. If the mysterious intelligence behind the Korthak Empire was preparing some kind of super weapon or fleet, it could pose a threat even to humanity's advanced technology. "What are you proposing?" Admiral Corvin asked. Captain Chen manipulated the display to show fleet positions and movement vectors. A joint assault on the Korthak home system. We need to investigate this station and determine what we are dealing with before it becomes operational. That would require committing the majority of our combined fleet, Admiral Corven pointed out. If this is a trap, or if the Korthak have additional forces we are not aware of. The risk is significant, Captain Chen agreed. But the alternative could be worse. If we allow this construction project to continue, we might face an enemy even more dangerous than the original Korthak Empire. Dr. Vasquez was studying the technical readouts from the reconnaissance probes. Captain, I am seeing something unusual in these energy patterns. The quantum signatures are unlike anything in our databases, but there is something familiar about them. Familiar how? I am not certain yet. But the mathematical structure of these energy emissions reminds me of theoretical work done by human scientists decades ago. Research that was abandoned because we could not make it practical with available technology. Captain Chen's expression grew very serious. Doctor, are you suggesting that whoever built this station has access to human scientific research? See, it is possible. Or they developed similar concepts independently. Dr. Vasquez continued studying the data. But Captain, if I am right about what I am seeing here, this station is not just a construction facility. It is some kind of dimensional manipulation device. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications of this statement. Dimensional manipulation was theoretical even for humanity's advanced science. The ability to access alternate dimensions or manipulate the fundamental structure of space-time would represent a level of technology beyond anything previously encountered. Could such a device pose a threat to our ships? Zethvar asked. Commander, I honestly do not know. Doctor, Vasquez admitted. Our understanding of dimensional mechanics is still largely theoretical. A device capable of practical dimensional manipulation could potentially neutralize our quantum defenses, or worse. Captain Chen turned to Admiral Corven. Admiral, I believe we need to accelerate our timeline. If this station becomes fully operational, it could threaten not just our fleet, but the entire galaxy. Admiral Corven nodded slowly. Very well, Captain. What do you need from coalition forces? Every ship we can spare, and all available intelligence on Korthak defensive capabilities in their home system. We will need to move fast and hit hard before they can bring their new weapon online. Over the following days, the largest military operation in galactic history began to take shape. Human ships arrived from throughout known space, their numbers growing daily as more vessels emerged from their hidden bases. Coalition forces regrouped from their liberation operations, converging on the staging area near the edge of Korthak space. Zethvar found himself assigned as liaison between Coalition and human forces aboard Captain Chen's flagship Defiant. As he worked with the human crew to coordinate the massive operation, he gained new appreciation for their capabilities beyond just advanced technology. The humans demonstrated an extraordinary ability to process complex information and make rapid decisions under pressure. Their planning was meticulous but flexible, able to adapt to changing circumstances without losing coherence. Most impressively, they seemed to instinctively understand how different species thought and worked, making them excellent coordinators for the diverse coalition forces. Commander Zethvar, Captain Chen called out as the final preparations were completed. Are coalition forces ready for the operation? All ships report ready, Captain, Zethvar confirmed. 67 coalition vessels are standing by for your command. Captain Chen nodded and activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships. This is Captain Chen. In 10 minutes, we will begin the jump to the Korthak home system. Our mission is to investigate and neutralize the unknown installation detected by our reconnaissance probes. He paused, his expression serious. I want to emphasize that we are moving into completely unknown territory. The enemy may possess weapons and capabilities we have not encountered before. Every ship commander should be prepared for the unexpected. The jump to hyperspace was unlike anything Zethvar had experienced before. Human ships did not use the familiar hyperspace tunnels employed by coalition vessels. Instead, space itself seemed to fold around the fleet, compressing distances until they emerged in the target system in what felt like an instant. What they found there exceeded their worst fears. The massive station detected by reconnaissance probes was indeed enormous. But it was not alone. Surrounding it was a fleet of ships unlike any they had seen before. Not Korthak designs, but something completely alien with geometries that seemed to shift and change as they watched. "My God," whispered Dr. Vasquez from her position at the science station. "Captain, the energy readings from that station are off the charts. And those ships, their quantum signatures are completely unlike anything in our databases." Before Captain Chen could respond, space around the mysterious fleet began to ripple and distort. The Allied fleet found themselves facing not just advanced technology, but physics-defying capabilities that challenged everything they thought they knew about the universe. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity's greatest test lay ahead.